Aybowan. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are going to talk about clay pots, or either we can call the cooking utensils. In ancient time, in Sri Lankan traditional way, we used to have so many different kind of utensils such as copper, steel, and clay pot. Most of the time, for the domestic cooking, we used clay pots. Why is that? There's a particular reason that we have used these clay pots for day-to-day life, for the cooking purposes and frying purposes. Today we are going to talk about that. I will show you, like in the ancient time, in a traditional way, we used to cook in this pot. This is a copper pot. We used to cook in this pot. It's a copper utensil, which is handmade one. It's a very ancient one. We used to cook so many things in here, but normally for day-to-day purposes, we didn't use these kind of utensils. We had different utensils, and I will show you another one. It's a steel kadai. You can see it's a steel, complete raw steel one. It's an ancient one also. For different purposes, we use these different utensils, such as, like if you take these copper utensil, like making oils for the different kind of ailments, we use copper utensils. Like steel utensils, for like we make medicine in here, because some traditional medicine, it needs a certain amount of iron in there. So basically we use iron utensils. But for the cooking purposes, we use clay pots like this. You can see it's a newly made clay pot. It's very clear, so shine, and it has a thickness of like 2 to 3 millimeter thickness. And when we use this kind of utensil, there's a technique, like we call it as padankaranawa. What do you mean by padankarana? You season it with, like you put a little bit of coconut, scraped coconut in there, and some water, and you boil it, and then all the pores in there get coated, and it prevents leaking, seep through. So what is the purpose of using this kind of clay pot? I will show you a used one. Here you can see it's a used one, a clay pot. It's get darker, it's very shinier inside, if you can see it. I don't know whether you can see it properly to the camera, but you can see it's shine, and it has a little bit of oily texture inside. Outer it's darker, and because it's been used in the wooden fire, it's get carbonated in here. So what is the purpose of using clay pots? Like we have to go for the fundamentals. Like in traditional technique, in our traditional cooking, we use so much of coconut milk in our foods. So when the coconut milk get heated, it saturates the fat out of it. And do you know that the typical clay pot, the traditional clay pot, it really, when you are cooking, when the fat gets saturated, the clay pot, it absorbs certain amount of fat into it, and it keep it inside, because it has a thickness and it has pores, and it get into there, and it gets stored like that. That's why the used clay pots get this shiny looking. You can see it gets shinier, and it gets like you can see the sound. You can hear that it absorbs the oil in there, and certain amount of oil is containing in here. In traditional technique, for the new year, we do a ritual called as Tellaram Puchanama. So what you do basically, we get these utensils, like we use it for a year, and we store it like this, the other way around, and put some charcoal around and we burn it. And you know, it get burned because it's inside it contains so much of oil in there. So what is the purpose of using a clay pot? What is the health benefit that we get out of it? Do you know now modern day we use so many different kind of utensils such as stainless steel and different kind of frying techniques and glass utensil, fire rakes. There are so many different kind of utensils are there. So basically when we apply oil in there, the whole oil amount absorbs into the food. But do you know, in the traditional technique, these clay pots, it absorbs a certain amount of almost 40 to 50% of the oil content, it absorbed by the clay pot itself. Any man can do a research on that, why it is being used in traditional way, and you get very health benefit out of it. When you know that we are cooking with the oil and we are cooking with the coconut milk, that we without knowing we get so much of fatty. So now modern day our culture we face so much of cholesterol problem, fat, obesity, so much of fat in there in the foods. So in the traditional technique, without knowing, our ancient people has used a very dynamic technique for cooking. So you can get so much of benefit out of it. Like when the traditional technique for the New Year fest, before the New Year fest, like week before, we burn all the old utensils and all the oil and carbon are get burned, and a new pot is born, and it ready to the New Year. So I would like to invite all my colleagues, all the people out there to use clay pots, and you can have a very healthy life with this. Use all the time, use clay pots, and you can get health out of it, and you can get so much of earth mineral in there. We use coconut spoons to stir in there, and it's very healthy because it's earth minerals are there. You can get rare earth minerals from it, and the excess fat will be lost in there and it get absorbed in there. So we'll have a very healthy diet from out of it. And I would like to invite all of my friends to use clay pots for day-to-day cooking and be healthy, be happy. Ayubowan.